Hey YouTubers! So yesterday was Mother's Day and I went with my brother to my parents' house, which is just a half an hour or so away from this lonely little apartment of mine, to visit with my family and celebrate with my mom by gardening with her outside. Well, it turned out that I got lazy and ended up just taking lots of pictures of flowers and trees all around while she did the actual weeding and planting, but I figured it was the thought that counts. I spent the night and got to have four animals constantly snuggling up to me for cuddle. Honestly, this is one of the main reasons I ever come over to visit my parents' house. And this morning, I left. Now, I have some things I want to say about the subject of mothers and Mother's Day. First of all, I am grateful that we have a special day to remind us to appreciate our moms. And I am grateful that right now I am getting along with my mom enough to be able to celebrate with her. But secondly here, I want to talk about the whole concept of Mother's Day in a more broad and expansive way than just greeting card Mother's Day discussion. I mean, although there's nothing wrong with spending time with your mom on Mother's Day, there are a lot of things which society as a whole I feel needs to stop doing in order to make the holiday a more wholesome and a more honest one. I think that this day, in addition with bringing up sentiments of warmth towards moms all over, also brings up some issues which point to corruption within what I learned in college to call the institution of motherhood. I actually did a paper on just that topic, which I may read to you guys at some point later. For the moment, let's just start with the basics of what I learned in college from all those femist-y courses I took. I learned, for one, that far from being a mere fact of nature, motherhood was something that was quite unnatural to many women, and that the status bestowed upon women for being mothers to human children was part of the patriarchal structure of society, that it was an institution controlled by men who did not so much honor and appreciate women for their role as they did condescend and manipulate them for it. The sad fact is that today, and for countless generations before, to be a mom in the conventional sense is to many, many women just a way of conforming to societal standards, of not sticking out, of hiding within the prescribed roles that traditional culture has set out for them. You don't need to be good at what you do, and you don't even have to be particularly inclined toward liking children. You just need to understand the fundamental underlying power and status structures of the institution called motherhood, and follow obediently where you are supposed to comply with higher-ups, i.e. men, and enforce your superiority when you are called to do that also, as inferior but bigger mommy. That's right, even when a female is playing boss, she is still in the inferior social position in many ways. She may be able to control much of what her children do, or their lives, but she does not necessarily even want this job or take any pleasure in it. When a woman actually does enjoy her role as mother on a deep level, it seems to me that it is usually because she is either an oddly good mommy or, more commonly, a terrible one. Loving the highly restricted and restricting role of mother in human society can work for very sick, control freak types and those who like to turn their sense of powerlessness as women onto their younger children. Society allows this to a large degree, and this is what perpetuates a lot of the same problems it started with. Don't worry, you may have had a bad childhood, but when you grow up, you'll be in charge of your own life, is the message kids are so naively fed these days. And it's meant to be a positive message of hope, but really it ignores the problem of correcting kids' emotional pain before it's too late and they've already gone on to perpetuate a system in which to be physically bigger is to be in charge of those physically smaller. Because that's what emotionally or even physically and sexually abused kids do. They do not seek simply to gain control of their own lives, oftentimes. No, they want to hurt others to show how badly they were hurt and or how powerful they are now. People greatly underestimate the amount of pain that can be brought into adult life from childhood. Well, not me. I try to get in touch with my inner child daily, I let her run around and play. Some would call me eccentric, even obscenely immature for what I do to self-medicate my soul. Well, I have this to say. On this Mother's Day, I think we should have put aside our conventional conceptions about mothers and motherhood and dared to really consider some inspiring outside-of-the-box notions. Like, what if, let's just use our inner children to imagine for a sec now. On Mother's Day, we did not just honor primarily the image of the white, Western, upper-middle-class women with human children, but instead, all beings on planet Earth, or hell, even beyond, who have a mothering role, or even just a nurturing instinct. Why do we act like it's such a big, socially responsible thing just to show pictures on TV of mothers with broken teeth and brown skin? Why not also try making greeting cards for foster moms of shelter pets? Now there's an idea. I mean, people already do this sort of thing in the threads I see on my Facebook page, but I only see this movement toward a more inclusive, non-human sense of motherhood because I subscribe to so many animal shelter links on Facebook. The vast majority of humans, I think, know nothing about this new evolving consciousness. I think it's a crime, though. I think awareness needs to shift, as I consider myself just as much a mother for having a cat as I would for having a human baby. No kidding. And guess what? I will likely never have any real children. In fact, for various reasons, which I will not go into here. I do allow that a traditional mother's job of caring for a human child may be harder than caring for a cat is, but in true mothering, not just the institution of motherhood, I believe, it's the thought that counts, or rather, how much heart goes into your work. And I truly believe that you can, and if you feel so inclined, should, love your cat as much as your human child. Honestly, I think the whole sacred job of mother is given too much importance in some ways, as much as it is given too little in others. For instance, I say motherhood need not be so much work at all. Why can't it be all about celebrating life and not learning and teaching all these harsh life lessons all the time? Moms, you would do the world and yourselves a whole lot of good if you spent less time worrying about which brand of unnecessarily prescribed antibiotic to give your kid for a simple cold and spend more time playing with him instead. That whole no pain, no gain thing really, in my opinion, has no place in a really feminine process such as motherhood is. I think that's just another illusion perpetuated by patriarchal society. I mean, they used to think that labor had to be a painful thing, but just search YouTube for painless birth recordings and you should be able to find instances of ecstatic birthing experiences. So, any last thoughts here before I tie this video up? Well, I'm using my thinking cap and my child's brain again now. So, okay, so what if, this is going to sound crazy, but what if we celebrated Mother's Day by giving little edible treats to all mama cats around the world? What if we fought year-round for the reproductive rights of animals versus forcing them to bear animal product for us to consume? What if on Mother's Day there was someone going on a program attesting to all the brave women who opted out of motherhood for the right reasons? Just a way to honor all those poor women who made the painful decision to abort a fetus with a fatal birth defect or something? What if we provided special programs on TV that in an approachable way provided young women entering reproductive age with some actual useful and formative material to learn about, which revolved around the oh-so-fundamental and yet complex subject of how to mother? What if midwives and au pairs and daycare center workers were honored on Mother's Day? What if little sisters who had to take care of their even littler brothers because their mommies worked double shifts were given a special honorable mention? I think this could really help their self-esteem. What if we celebrated would-be mothers, the might have been mothers, and the soon-to-be mothers all in one lump, without discrimination. I'm just saying there are so many other ways to celebrate Mother's Day than the rather rigid and outdated practices that most people still know about today. I even think men should be allowed to jump in and become more a part of the Mother's Day celebration. After all, without the father, there wouldn't be a mother, if she's a biological mother of a human child in today's world anyway. In fact, I think we should consider abolishing Father's Day altogether, since it's not like that day gets hardly any attention anyway. Not really. I just think that that day needs way more work than this video could possibly cover. So perhaps we should come up with a generalized Caretaker's Day and call it Nurturer's Day or something, so that men could sort of get squeezed in there on the same little pedestal, however meaningless it may be in other contexts, such as the power structure within society, as women. Yeah, the paradox just unveiled here is that the loving, caring part of men, and yes, they do have this part of them, I know this, is at odds with a traditionally masculine, dominating part of them, which seeks to belittle their own and women's own nurturing sides. Knowing this all, let's bring a little compassion into the debate, and just maybe our patriarchal society will bend a little bit for us and allow the warm, caring, feminine aspect of spirit to blossom within it. Let Mother's Day be a giant celebration of life and life-giving, in no matter what form it takes.